Hello. Welcome back to another episode on Reddit Raccoon. If you enjoy my videos, please subscribe and leave a like. Women who think that only men should be drafted in the event of a war. Why? Sorts by controversial. Somehow both sides managed to get on my nerves in that cesspool. Honestly, it's Reddit, both sides of everything do. Political humor especially drives me to anger management and possibly alcoholism. This thread is wild. Draft discussions are typically pretty interesting. The draft is basically a bad solution to a terrible problem. The draft may be a bad solution, but it might be the best bad alternative. Which sucks. I suppose the Starship Troopers model is an alternative, where it's optional but carries massive benefit. Yeah. IDK if I'd like the world to imitate Starship Troopers. Would you like to know more? Tell me about co-ed showers. One of the most regretful missed moments from college. Hi Liz. How ya doing? I just had a shower. Me too. That's too bad. We colder collaborated. And scene. The draft should only be if we're actively invaded. I don't want to be sent over to kill some Middle Eastern farmer just because he discovered oil. I want to defend the land of my country, not go invading. Why the f*** did I have to scroll this far to see this answer? I agree. I'm not trying to go overseas and murder people to protect the interest of ExxonMobil and British Petroleum. I'm going to be honest, I have never met any woman who thinks men should be drafted. Most of the women I talk to think that no one should be drafted. Yeah. I don't want anyone to get drafted. That includes me. The draft is an oligarchy's tool to force the peasants to fight to protect the oligarch's property and way of life under threat of imprisonment. If you support the draft in any fashion, you're supporting oppressive instruments of the state. No one should be forced to fight in a war against their will. I don't support a draft as a US military veteran. The military and everything about it, both good and bad, isn't for everybody. That's not even getting into combat deployments and actual combat. That's especially not for everybody. Even a lot of people that think it is for them. That's in addition to what you're saying, which is actually true. I don't. But at least one parent needs to stay with the babies. He's diabetic. I'd take his place if needed. In a perfect world there would be no draft. Thank you kindly for the award. I'm a dentist, so I'm pretty sure if I got drafted I'd still just be a dentist. Just in the military. Take your child to work day is gonna be a blast. A blast? The whole idea of a draft is stupid. Drawing regular people to defend their country from invasion, sure. Drafting people to go elsewhere and fight in something they don't agree with is dumb. The problem with the only for defense law is that the government argues basically everything is for defense. Most countries have a department or ministry of defense. The Iraq war was sold as a defense against WMDs. The Afghan war is one against terror. Russia is also claiming it is defending themselves. And a large part of their population buys it. Just like over half of Americans supported the invasion of Iraq. I'm not a fan of the draft in general. And as a healthy young female, if it came to it, I would enlist. But one thing a lot of people are forgetting is that rape is used as a method of war. We don't talk about it a lot because it's so horrific. But in every armed conflict there is mass rape and women are raped to death. The stories of what the Russians did to the German women after World War II are horrific. I can't imagine many more horrific ways to die. I honestly don't know anyone who says this unironically. A much more popular opinion in my experience is that the draft should be abolished entirely, so neither men nor women should be forced to serve in a war they don't support, undefined. Edit 2. I don't know why a lot of you seem to think people shouldn't be forced to join the military against their will translates to we shouldn't have any kind of national defense or military at all. Nor am I saying this comment as the only experience out there. Just stating my own observation. A draft for a war of aggression like Vietnam is unconscionable. And from an American point of view, the idea that a military draft will actually necessary for our nation to survive is ludicrous. But for many nations, like Ukraine right now, drafts are absolutely necessary if you are to survive as a nation at all. A draft for a war of aggression like Vietnam is unconscionable. Couldn't agree more. Yup, the draft should only be instituted if the threat is on home soil. I'm a dude but I haven't seen it said yet. Young women being held as pals by the enemy makes for extremely powerful propaganda and bargaining power. This is a practical concern of women soldiers, independent of their capabilities. There's also the fact that women pals are probably going to be subject to gang rape. And that creates a whole lot of problems. Imagine children being born in POW camps. Undefined. I'm never going to minimize the rape of men, but there's an additional complicating factor when you consider pregnancy. As you mention, children born to female powers. The way those children would be treated. The way a woman who honorably served her country would be treated if she came home pregnant with the enemy's child. The only men who should be forced into war are the ones calling for it, politicians, etc. Kidnap the idiots to a secure, private location. Lock the door and let them beat the speep out of each other with fists. If they were forced to risk their own lives, they wouldn't demand for others to do so easily. Because politicians are so far removed from the line of fire, they don't see the value of human life. Update. Elon Musk challenges Putin to a single combat fight, with the stakes being Ukraine. What did I say? XD. Definitely. Send their kids to the front lines if they want war so badly. Same with the psychos in the media cheering on drone strikes and bombings of weddings and hospitals. The people who stand to profit from these conflicts never feel the consequences. Companies like Raytheon and Lockheed Martin got rich for 20 years in Afghanistan while young kids were sent there to die for no reason. I'm a woman and I've never heard a woman say only men should be drafted. I've heard women say no one should be drafted or everyone should be. The only people I've heard say only men should be drafted are men. Let's be real here. The real question was, hey, anyone willing to step into this pillory I set up? I have some rotten eggs here ready to throw. I've read lots of stories in the past few years about women, sometimes specifically married women, being harassed in the armed forces. One lady who wrote an article about her experience said she was singled out over the single women in her unit for harassment and her wedding ring became the target of much of the comments. Women in general, however, seem to have a rough go in the armed forces. I don't think anyone should be forced into military service. But if they are, I think forcing women into a situation rife with sexual assault and harassment is immoral. Ask the men who think this, not the women. They are easier to find. Obviously, the replies are mostly from men here. Anytime they ask women a question, it's mostly men replying. This pretty much sums up life, tbh. It. Not women. I'm female, so I'll bite. I'm small, so I think there are a number of jobs that require a certain level of strength or size I'll never have. It might take two of me to do a job one guy can do. I might be able to shoot a rifle but not be able to carry the pack. I might be able to drive the truck but not be able to unload it or lift the tire to fix it. I need a whole set of equipment made for my height and strength or I will be injured on the way to the front. Literally every guy over the age of 13 is stronger than me. Now if there's a role where you need a draft and that doesn't matter and you've got right sized equipment for me, sure, put me in a draft. I'm happy to take a position so a young man doesn't have to do it. Otherwise, You're better off putting me somewhere else where I'm not a potential liability. Like a factory. We want to win the battle, and that means not being woke about it. A friend of mine who used to serve in the military was really small like you. She was driving a tank. It's really small in there from what I heard. I've never met a woman who seriously believes men should be drafted and women shouldn't. They believe in eliminating the draft entirely.